Hi, everyone. Welcome to our spring edition of Humanities Heroes at True North Academy. It is that time of year where everybody's searching for just the right classes for the 25-26 school year. And we wanted to make sure that you were aware of our amazing humanities classes at True North. I'm Beth Purcell. I'm an English language arts and communications teacher at True North, as well as the humanities lead. And I'm here with a wonderful, incredible True North Academy teacher, Miss Angie Ferrell. Hi, Miss Ferrell. How are you?
I'm good this morning. Yes, thanks
Good.
for having me.
Good. I am so thrilled to spend the next few minutes with Angie. She teaches some exciting and very important classes for True North, and we'll talk about those in just a moment. But Angie, first of all, let's start off. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, your educational background, your teaching experience, and how you got to True North.
Well, my actual primary experience was in mental health. I spent about 17 years as a mental health professional. And when I decided to start homeschooling my children, I retired from that kind of. And then I homeschooled my children, both of them through high school to graduation, and they're grown. But while they were in their last couple years of high school, I went back to school and got my master's in education and decided I was going to switch to teaching because obviously when you homeschool and you have to learn so much about the pedagogy of education, and I just really got passionate about certain aspects of learning and teaching. And so I decided I wanted to do that. And I started off just doing some part-time work. I did some special ed education initially when I first graduated, and I really loved that. And then the opportunity to come to True North came around, and it's just been such a perfect fit. I love working in a Christian environment. The kids are great, and I'm kind of a techie, so it's really, really fun, to teach online and as I was saying earlier about learning all these new skills. I'm starting to teach myself coding, so that part of it is super fun. But I can still do. I teach psychology too, so I also get to kind of dabble in my first occupation, and yeah, so I'm almost an empty nester. My youngest is going to be transferring to the four-year school this fall. So it'll just be me and my husband and all of our chickens and other pets here at home. And so my True North kids get to be my adopted children, I guess, once my
I love it. Ms. Farrell is such a caring, wonderful teacher for us here at True North.
thank you.
Angie, you're teaching several classes in fall of 2025. You are currently teaching some of these as well. So let's talk about them. We've got research writing with confidence, such an important class. We've got writing with confidence. We're going to talk about those and the difference between those. And then short story, lit, and comp, as
Mhm.
well as psychology, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
These links to Ms. Farrell's classes will be in our comments section. But Angie, take us through these classes. Tell us a
Oh,
little
and
bit
don't forget,
about
I teach
history.
history too.
Oh, and history, American
And they're
history.
all related. I was saying earlier, I think they're all related. They're all humanities. Because they approach the idea of worldview and
Yes.
how we are formed as individuals as far as our pursuit of truth and wisdom. So I really do believe that people say, how can you teach all those different things? Well, they're very similar. They really are. So I'll start with writing because you mentioned that first. So
Okay.
the research writing with confidence is really only a semester. The writing with confidence program is a year-long writing course
Mhm.
where we begin with basic writing tools, and we ramp up through the school year to culminate in a 15-week in-depth research writing process. And in that process, they learn how to conduct proper research, to evaluate sources, to use AI properly. We look at different writing conventions like MLA formatting, APA formatting. So they start out, I ease them in and I walk them through. It's very incremental, step by step, lots of scaffolding. A lot of the kids come into the course super nervous because the program looks very hard, and it is. But I'm very careful and incremental about it. And at the end, they're always so happy and surprised. They'll say, Mrs. Farrell, I didn't think I could do this. And wow, look what I've produced. And they produce a college level, beautiful research essay at the end of the course. And We also do some basic 5 paragraph essays just as warm up, and we do a comparison essay as well, which I think also is a important skill. So a lot of writing, but we also do a lot of activities. I try to keep the course really engaging, so they do a lot of teamwork when we get together for our live class, working together on projects and peer reviewing and think. I try to make it engaging as possible for them in that way because writing can be very difficult. I get it. I haven't had anybody quit me yet. And then my Lit and Comp course is an introduction to Lit and Comp. So it's more like a ninth grade course and it's short story focused. So the literature is all short stories and we have a lot of fun with that. And they learn how to do some basic essay writing in that course. And we have some really fun discussions in that class because the stories just cover the gamut. And I like to do more classical stories. So we have irony and mystery and allegory and just beautiful stories that are timeless. And then I teach psychology, and
Wow.
that is a CLEP course. So they can take the CLEP exam at the end of that course and get a college credit if they choose to do that.
Mhm.
The beautiful thing about the psychology course is that it is taught from a Christian worldview. And right now, we do have some concerns within that realm of psychology, and that there is some ideological capture at the university level.
Right.
And I have some concerns about that as a Christian because truth is truth, no matter where we are in time. And
Right.
psychology can be a very beautiful science, and it very much confirms a biblical worldview. And so I really want the students to understand that and see that psychology doesn't necessarily contradict a biblical worldview, that it's very much aligned with God's truth
Yeah.
and his wisdom about the brain. And
Yeah.
so that is the thing I really love about teaching that course is teaching it from that perspective. And right now, actually, that's our next project in classes. We're going to do a biblical worldview comparison where we go through all the different theorists and what they believe about man and sin and recovery and health and how that compares to biblical truth. And it hopefully will be very educational
I
for the
bet.
students.
And how does the CLEP piece to that work?
So that students do have to take the exam on their own, but I do provide all the information. I provide them with study tools and links to where to sign up for testing and I walk them through the whole process so it should be very, very clean for them to do that if they choose to take that step.
And if they
Now the
take that,
psychology, go ahead.
if they take that test, then they earn that college credit.
They do.
Correct.
They get
Okay.
that. And the CLEP exams are pretty universal. Every university accepts it. It's really not a questioned. It's not like I know some classes sometimes have to be evaluated if you went
Right.
to this school or that school, but it's pretty much a universally accepted credit. So that's a super great perk to that
Yes.
because almost every degree requires a psychology course at the university level, even if you're taking engineering. So if you
Mhm.
want to avoid some of that ideological capture, at the
Yeah.
university level, this actually is a great way to sidestep some of that and just get a beautiful introduction to the mind and God's design for our brains.
That
And then
is,
my last course is history. I'll do a quick on that.
yeah.
And I'm teaching American history again. These are all high school courses. And the American history course is somewhat unique in that it's called American history in film. So we don't have a textbook. They use all films, so some feature films, but mostly lots of YouTube clips and shorts and documentaries. And they evaluate the different topics each week, and then we have a study guide. But there's also a discussion. They do an online discussion together every single week over basically whatever the zeitgeist of that era is, and compelling questions that need to be answered. And I really enjoy the class. I hope the students enjoy it as much as I enjoy teaching it. But just taking a look at all of what's happened in American history through the lens of a camera and through film. We look at some really fun feature films, and they also learn how to be discerning with media and as a result of that course because we do evaluate the accuracy of the films, biases, how those are presented. Their final project, they have to do a movie analysis where they have to look at maybe what techniques were used to persuade the audience,
Yeah.
how the data was presented in the movie, if it was accurate, how characters were built, and so forth. So it's actually a lot of critical thinking, I feel like, in this course. They do a fun project too mid-year where they actually have to create a ad campaign for a political candidate.
Oh,
And so,
wow.
so again, that's another opportunity to
Uh,
take a look at how you persuade, how
Yeah.
we use media, and so forth. So anyway, that's my four courses.
Yeah. As you said, they are all very interconnected.
Yes, they are very much.
It's clear to see that. Why is it important, Angie, for students to work through literature and writing? What skills, what real world skills can they get from your writing with confidence, research writing, and a short story class? What kind of real world skills do those type of classes give our students?
Well, beyond the technical skills of the subjects themselves, I think they are worldview builders.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing the way even literature, history teaches tools that we use in literature, literature teaches tools that we use in history, but just storytelling in general is much of how we form ourselves and our viewpoints about the world. It gives
Yeah,
us an opportunity to evaluate ourselves and evaluate really through the lens of someone in the story or someone in history. We get a chance to weigh our own viewpoints against their actions and decisions and so forth. And so it's virtue building, I believe, in studying these ancient stories, old stories, and then comparing them against their own value development. What is important to me? How would I approach this topic? I get to live through that lens,
right.
right? And I do think that we are living in an age where students are encouraged to read kind of fluffy literature and maybe not even any literature. And there's something about not just the storytelling, but just even the reading of the words on the page, that what it does to our brains and how it develops our vocabulary
Yes.
and our reasoning, our communication skills. So, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine a world without good books and good
Right.
stories. They really do build us as human beings.
Yeah, critical thinking, analysis, like you said, broadening
Yes,
perspectives of our students, showing up communication skills, all of
I
that's
agree.
important.
Yes.
Angie, run through your grade levels here for your different classes. What
Okay.
grade levels are your classes appropriate for?
Well, the American history really could be any high school student.
Cool.
It's
Okay.
I think we have ninth graders through 12th graders in that
Okay.
course. So anyone who needs American history credit for high school. And the Lit and Comp I really recommend for ninth or 10th grade because it is more of an introductory course. So
Okay.
that's for the student who doesn't have a lot of writing experience because I'm going to walk them through the basic essay development. But some kids, I've had kids take my Lit and Comp course who maybe have the writing skills down, but they just want to have really deep discussions around the stories.
Yeah.
And so that also is something to consider because for some students that's really where they're at. They just want to look at those stories, dig into those characters and those scenarios. And it gives us again, that's why I think even literature is like history, it gives us so much cultural context because we read stories that go all through time. So they get to take a look at all of these different contexts of the authors, of the stories themselves. So they're getting a lot of context building even in the stories. So some of my students have come back to me after. It's funny, I have some students that took writing last year, which is more of an advanced course. It's more 10th, well, I would say 11th or 12th ideally.
Okay.
It really depends. If a student has some writing history, 10th grade is fine.
Yeah.
But I've had students take that advanced course, then come and take my introductory lit course, and I say, "Oh, the writing's going to be so easy for you." Yeah, but I get to have all these discussions, and in writing,
Yes. All right. And
we
writing is
don't get to
a
talk
technical
about fun
skill,
stories.
right?
We just have to dig into the writing. So for
That's
them,
great.
it's like a fun way to get an English credit for a change because there's just different types of challenges.
That's
Oh,
right.
and then psychology also can be really any high school student, although I do think it's probably better suited for slightly older kids just because psychology in general is a mature topic.
Right.
There's a lot of science and social anthropology and things in there. So it kind of, parents have to decide for themselves where their kids' maturity level is and where they think they would fit. But they are all high school students
All
in
high
there.
school classes. Do you have a favorite assignment or project that your students complete in one of your classes?
Oh my goodness. I have to think about that. Well, in my lit course, we write a worldview essay, which I think is very important. And the way we segue into that is we compare the worldviews of C.S. Lewis and the Inkling writers
Oh,
to
yes.
the sort of contrast to the other writers in their era, which we call those the lost generation writers, right? So you have
Yeah.
Hemingway and T.S. Eliot and all these writers, and then we have J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, and they're all contemporaries, but
Right.
yet one has this very solid Christian worldview. One is more of a life is kind of hopeless, nihilistic almost worldview. And of course, both sides of the spectrum are wonderful authors with amazing stories, but
Right.
how those worldviews really speak to the way their stories are presented. And then the
Yeah.
student gets to contrast those ideas to, well, what is informing my worldview? And
Nice.
where am I in the spectrum right now in my life? So they do that in lit class.
That's
And
awesome.
then in my history class, I mentioned that they do the big film analysis in um,
Right.
the campaign, the advertising campaign, which
Right.
I
Right.
think is super cool. Those are cool projects.
Mm.
But and, it's funny. I don't really have in psychology right now. This week they're doing an actual experiment.
Oh, wow. Oh,
So
neat.
I'm excited to find out what they haven't turned them in yet. They still have a couple more days, but they're actually doing a psychological experiment. And the kids always come up with the coolest things.
So
They
they can
make their
devise
family.
their own
Yeah,
experiment.
yes, they use their families or their siblings. And it's actually interesting. I have a student in my class right now whose older sister took the course a couple years ago, and she had used him as one of her study for a study that she did for her psychology experiment. So yeah, they get to learn how to design an experiment to come up with a question and then turn that into a hypothesis, design an experiment. And I'm not looking for a college level
Right.
type of experiment here, but just to dip their toes in the water to understand how the process works, and then to just do a real a brief narrative about what they learned in terms of how that played out. And they have a lot of fun with it. So yeah, we get to do cool things. I think a lot of people undersell. I think online school is finally getting its feet in a way people are seeing, oh, this is just as good as any other kind of school, right? So I
Hmm.
always want to stress to people, we get to do all the same things and maybe some more exciting things in some ways in virtual school than in brick and mortar schools. So I don't know. I love those kinds of activities. We'll see how it plays out for this class, but they come up with stuff that I haven't even thought of. So they have creative minds, and again,
Very
we just
inventive students, very inventive students.
yeah,
Yes, even in an online environment, we can still create opportunities for collaboration, and we can still build class community,
yeah.
and being able to share all the great things that students are doing with each other and having those wonderful discussions that you talked about. It is a wonderful environment that we build here at True North Academy. Angie, you are truly a gift, and we are so fortunate that you're
Oh
part
my
of our
goodness.
staff. You're an incredible teacher. Angie's seats fill quickly. So registration is open for the 25-26 school year. Don't miss an opportunity to learn from one of True North's best. Thank you, Angie. I appreciate your
Thank
time
you.
today. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you soon with another episode of True North Humanities Heroes. Have a great day. Thanks everyone. Bye.